And all of these things. I mean, it can't just be, in my opinion, in my estimation, just coincidences. There's just too much here that leads in the other direction of authenticity. If you look very carefully, I know you have some images we're going to show of the images on the shroud. You see an anatomically perfectly correct human being, front and rear and face, with wounds on his body that correspond quite, I would say exactly, to biblical accounts. Not just the nails in the hands, the foot, the wound in the side from the spear of the Roman soldier. And also, since you mentioned the back, now we have a back image which shows flagellation, whipping, from what they called a Roman flagrum. A flagrum was a Roman whip. They have these relics in museums, or pieces of them, which had either bone from an animal or metal pieces, which they used to whip people. They called it flagellation, which was done prior to crucifixion. And then there's the crown of thorns on the head, which apparently was like a helmet, not the crown that we saw in the Middle Ages. And that's interesting too, because if it was a medieval forgery, all the pictures in the Middle Ages, the portrait, the paintings, have a coronet type crown, and they have the wounds in the hand. That's not what's here, but anatomical investigations, archaeological findings show that this was different than it would have appeared in the Middle Ages. It's definitely not paint. It's not painted on. And there's no way that, in my estimation, that they could have produced this image in the Middle Ages.
In addition to all the other evidence, there's a spear, a wound.
I alluded to that, yeah, in the side, with the blood, consistent with yeah. So record. I guess bottom line, I mean, the whole entire image now, on the cloth.
If you look at this image,
is authentic.
What kind of feeling do you get when you look at this image? Do you feel that it's? To me, it looks very genuine.
To me, I feel that I'm looking at an image of the crucified Christ at the time of resurrection, because I say that no, well, or just prior to well, let's put it this way. According to the biblical accounts, he was in the tomb for 3 days. This is what his body would have looked like in the tomb. Just, I guess you say, the instant possibly before the resurrection experience, which was, it appears to have been some sort of energy, unaccountable energy, supernatural energy, that raised his body and made this image. So I guess the way I would look at it is that this is what the body of Christ, Jesus Christ, looked like in the tomb, just as the energy, the power of the resurrection was just raising him up, and then what would have raised the body and brought it back, of course, according to our belief, in the Christian belief, that brought back to life, and that's what I see.
Crystal clear. If Jesus' body was pressed up against any type of, laying on an object, it would produce wrinkles, but there were no wrinkles. It was perfectly
yes,
no wrinkles, perfectly accurate. That means that it had been raised. Because without being suspended, there's no way you would have been able to get an image without wrinkles or any type of flaws.
Yes, that's right. And I do have in my hand here a study that was released just in December of 2011 that Shroud of Turin, and it was on the internet and Huffington Post, I believe. I see it here, printable and public domain. Shroud of Turin, Jesus' proposed burial cloth is authentic. Italian study suggests December 21st, 2011, right from the internet. And this is basically about the Italian National Agency for New Technologies and Energy and Sustainable Economic Development. The bottom line is they released this. They believe their findings undermine previous theories. This is important, that the shroud was faked in the medieval period. The scientists were unable to replicate marks on the cloth. No, they were able to. Oh, I'm sorry, able to replicate marks on the cloth using advanced ultraviolet techniques that weren't available 2,000 years ago. But they couldn't repeat the experiment, so they couldn't get a definitive finding. And then their bottom line is this inability to repeat. Okay, they can't authenticate their hypothesis, okay. But they believe that the lead scientist believes that this is important. The lead research professor, Manuela Marinelli, estimates that the cloth, the shroud, is at least 95% authentic. That would allow for the 5% of the patches that were tested. So it says nobody can give 100% guarantee, but to me, this is enough. And based on other findings...
Other findings too. The Vatican has an archivist, and this archivist recently published a book about this subject. Bottom line was the archivist was able to find more Aramaic and Hebrew lettering on the shroud itself, and it had Jesus Nazarene written on the shroud in very faint lettering. In addition, like I said, that there was the death certificate. This is all information that is very, very compelling and profound. Everybody has to make their own decision. We shouldn't believe it because someone says to believe it, or someone says not to believe it. You should believe it on the facts, scientific facts, which I think are very strong. And there's going to be more information coming out in the future because the blood testing, the DNA testing is getting more sophisticated, and as our science progresses, we'll be able to make better determinations. Therefore, we strongly encourage our viewers to research this further. It's a very interesting topic, and I think it's a very important topic, and I believe in its authenticity. And I think Ted, you
of course, yes, I do. I just had a few notes here that either further reinforce that. We call it a miraculous image. It was apparently a burst of radiation. There's an unknown source. Scientists call these things singularities and event horizons, and those are scientific terms. You mentioned certain things about the hovering. It's just you have to go, I guess. At the end, they call it a leap of faith, but it's faith based on scientific facts as well. It's not just a belief that you want to believe it's authentic because that's what you were told or learned in church or something. And although the Catholic Church, the Vatican, has never really made public announcements until I think recently Pope Benedict may have said something. Yeah, but they haven't really made that a big thing that's in the public domain that I'm aware of. They made one announcement. So
very interesting topic and something that
I think it's authentic.
We could definitely look into again. There's a lot to explore. Thank you for your time, Ted. Thank you for your research. I appreciate it as always. And this will be explored again.
Well.